Dudes to Dads is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying. And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is Dudes to Dads. Mr. Alan Bush.
Yes.
How the heck are you?
I'm doing well. Things are good.
Are you full?
I'm full. We just celebrated a filling holiday, right?
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
yeah.
You know what's funny? When you call me Mr. Alan Bush, I have students I just taught recently, and some of them still call me Professor. It just makes me laugh.
Is that
it's
cool,
weird.
though?
It's cool, but I was just like, I never thought I'd be called Professor. Anything.
Professor. Yeah, no, that would be kind of cool. I still get weirded out when people call me Sir or like Mister.
Yeah, that's
you know, like
still
even a
trips me
young
out.
kid will
I
say,
know,
like,
and you're
Mister.
You're
I'm
a
like,
dad, and like you know,
I know. I'm
it's so
still
funny.
not ready for it. I'll be like 70 and grandpa and
Why you
still
call me
not.
Mister?
Well, they're like Mr. Jason or
Yeah.
like polite. You know,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I still call my parents. I'm sorry, my friends' parents, like
Mr.
such and such or Mrs. such and such. You know, so I can't call you by your first name. It's just weird.
Yeah. No, so you know, Thanksgiving it always brings up, kind of just getting right into it. It always brings up, being thankful, gratitude, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to touch on, and I recently had a conversation about this, is that gratitude can actually fight depression. So that's the basis of this episode. What I want to talk about, and it's pretty serious. It's a serious topic. A lot of times we have fun. Sometimes we're serious. But it's basically fighting depression with gratitude.
So you think kids get depressed, and then
This is really about the dad.
the dad? Okay, cool.
Yes. I mean, we have, we talked about like teaching kids gratitude and stuff. But this is really about the dad.
This is for the dad.
This is for the dad. So, let's face it, whether you're a dad or you're just a human, you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. We all do. When your bad days outnumber your good days,
Sure.
you might be able to consider that somewhat of a depression.
Yeah, I've had those.
Yeah.
And you do feel like I don't think I could say I was clinically depressed, but I was pretty distraught.
Yeah, so this episode is really for people whose bad days outnumber their good days.
Gotcha.
If you are clinically depressed or you have a severe bout of depression, I am not a doctor. I'm making that disclaimer.
Okay.
Get medical advice, get that attention. But for the purpose of this episode, we're talking about, and identifying depression as just being in a place where you are lower than you want to be.
Yeah.
Or where you feel like you should be.
Sure.
And that's something, I mean, I've dealt with that. I get in moods, call it a funk, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a common thing that happens for everybody, but certainly men and certainly new dads, and certainly when your life's changing, whether it's new job, new house, new wife, new whatever, stuff happens.
Yeah. Life happens.
Yeah, you can get into funks. And,
Sure.
So I don't think, like I said, this is the answer for somebody with a serious illness.
Right.
But I
yeah.
do think that it can help based on what I'm reading and based on everything else. So what I'm proposing here is just some ways to sort of get out of your funk, if you will.
Okay.
In the words of James Brown. We were just talking,
your funk!
Well, we were just talking about that. Yeah. That was pretty good. I got to use, can we soundbite that?
I'll take a soundbite out of that.
So, we talked about gratitude for children and teaching them. That was episode 80. The best way to teach your children gratitude is to model it yourself. Okay? That's,
No, it makes sense.
So when you're in the midst of feeling crappy, call it, that's the best
Funk,
way to say
crappy,
it.
whatever you like.
It's often really difficult to see like the light
Yes.
and imagine what it is like to feel good.
Yes.
Like you're sort of in a situation where you're looking at it, and even if you're talking to yourself internally, and you're like, I can't even imagine what it's like to feel good right now. Like I just feel like crap.
I know. And it's such a spiraling thing, because once you feel like that, then it's really so much harder to get out of it.
Totally. And people are like, snap out of it, or like whatever.
Yeah.
People are like, hey, come with us and do something.
Yeah.
And certainly for some people, they may know their techniques. I think you had said some friends like, grabbed you when you were like, you didn't have the money.
Really yeah, exactly.
And like said, hey, let's go to the ball game. I remember that. And so that's something, that might work for somebody. For this situation, We're really talking about baby steps.
Yep.
And very, very small things that you can do to start getting yourself on a path of feeling better. And how do I know this? Is because it worked for me.
Good.
So I'm talking from experience. I'm not just, a little bit out of the intestinal tract, but talking from experience. Whether you're having problems in your relationship, kids are driving you crazy, job isn't going well, whatever it is, I'm asking that you try fighting the funk, if you will,
Right.
fighting that depression
Sure.
with gratitude.
Okay.
So here's some things that you can do to begin feeling grateful and adding gratitude into your life. Okay. And we're going to start small.
Okay.
So the first thing I would suggest is you go buy a journal or a notebook. Can't do that. Go get a piece of paper.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever.
A pencil and some paper.
Something that you need to write on. You could use your computer if it's, if you'd like to, that's fine. So when you wake up in the morning, whether you want to or not, you think of one thing that you are grateful for.
Okay.
So, and imagine yourself if you're in this funk and you get up in the morning, you don't even want to get out of bed. That's real. Somebody doesn't even want to get out of bed. If you can at least make the commitment to yourself that you're going to go through these steps, then the first step is simply writing something you are grateful for. And you're writing, I am grateful for, and then be sure to include because.
Yeah.
So you're actually saying, you could say, I'm grateful for my family because they love me unconditionally.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So if you have problems thinking of something and you can't think of anything that you're grateful for, you're pissed off at everyone.
I have a spleen. I have a spleen.
You could write that you're breathing. And it's funny, but this is real. Like it really is. It's like the fact that you are breathing, or you had the opportunity to actually sleep. You have a roof over your head. There's food in the house. I mean, you could be that minute.
I have this pencil that I'm writing this on.
Yeah. No, I mean, that minute is something your brain is looking at something in a positive way.
Sure.
And that is the first step to overcoming this issue that you're having.
Sure.
I recalled I went through this exercise during a time, and I really didn't believe it would work. Mm-hmm. I didn't. I was like, I wasn't feeling really good. I was so stressed out with work and trying to fit everything in and doing this, my kids, everything. And I really was like, okay, fine. I'll try this, because I was kind of just sick of feeling sick. Like I was done. You're kind of done with it. And you're like, I just don't know how to get out of this.
Yeah, sure.
And it wasn't a clinical depression, but it's the kind where it's like, I coming into work, not feeling that happy.
Right.
It's just not enjoyable for anybody around you and for anyone who's going through it. So that's sort of the first step. It only takes one positive thought to get yourself on track.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. So the next thing you would do is you go through your morning, you do your routine, whatever. Be conscious and stop complaining. So the complaining often goes in sync with depression and feeling negative.
Yeah, first you say it, then it's the reverse of what you just said. It's like basically taking you first. You say these things, then you feel that way.
Yeah, you're looking at everything through a negative lens.
Sure.
Oh, I got to get up in the morning. Oh, I got to go to work.
Yeah.
Oh, I got whatever it is. So negative. This is really a robust statement. Negative thoughts bring more negative thoughts.
Yeah,
that's it.
They attract each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Law of attraction. So if you think negative, things are going to be negative. If you think positive, things are going to be more positive. So if it's not something that you can change, or it's something about somebody, or and you don't have the opportunity that you're not actually talking to them directly, which we have discussed very in depth.
Yep.
Keep it to yourself. So if you're thinking of it throughout the day, and you find yourself with something that you're going to complain about, stop, evaluate the situation, and if there's a different way to say something to get off your chest, and it's positive or constructive, that's one thing. Let's say you have an issue with somebody, you're going to complain about somebody. Unless you're talking to that person, and telling them, hey, you know what? I'd really like it if this, and this was happening rather than this. Or, you know.
Well, I guess define negative. Like, there's some. I agree with what you're saying, but I'm trying to figure out like where does negative end and where does it just be cathartic to just let it out? Because some cases you may be like, that person, I don't want to say it to this person is going to cause a whole set of other issues. So let me just talk to a friend about the situation. I have this person at my work, let's say it's your boss or something or whatever it is, that's just causing a lot of problems. And you're saying it in a way that's not like, I hate that person, blah, blah, blah.
I think there's ways to think of things constructively.
Yeah.
If your thought is purely negative,
right,
and there's a complaint, that's one thing versus what you're talking about is in an attempt to be constructive.
Right. Like, you're that's what I always valued when people would try to find solutions rather than just complain about it. Just for the complaint.
Well, let's take something really horrible, or not really horrible, but like nobody sees anything good in it. Is like, let's say traffic.
Yeah.
You're going to be on your way to work and you're getting in your car and there's just a ton of traffic. Mm-hmm. So you might be able to say, oh my, goodness, there's traffic. I'm going to be late. Whatever it is, you're feeling that angst. Mm-hmm. Immediately recognize it and be like, okay, I recognize that I'm thinking that. Mm-hmm. Let's try to think of something that can be positive out of this. Well, you know what? I'm going to have some extra time to maybe listen to this podcast. Or I'm going to, maybe I can listen to some of my favorite music right now.
Sure.
Just it's something minute as that. And it might feel stupid at first, and it probably will be.
Yeah.
But you have to slowly change and train your brain to think like that. To change like that.
I totally agree. I used to live in Los Angeles, so traffic is a square on the head with that one. And I when I moved down here especially, I learned that it's nowhere near as bad as it is in LA, so I kind of survived the worst of it. And then B, I would just kind of it was inevitable. So I would just preoccupy myself with something else. So I'd be looking around at different cars, and I noticed that my name is in the word avalanche. Because I told you that, right? So like little stupid things like that, and I kind of got a kick out of it. It was kind of funny. You
can make a phone call as long as your hand's free.
Yeah,
you can make a phone call and catch up with some people that you haven't talked to. I mean,
sure.
It's a very hey, look at the positive and whatever, but it really is impactful and makes a difference.
You got to notice the world around you, and I think even in traffic you can do that. Like I told you, I found it was an Infiniti in front of me, but it was the limited edition, which I thought was kind of humorous because it's a paradox to have a limited Infiniti. Right. And so I was just kind of like, just little stupid things to preoccupy my thoughts that turned into something kind of funny to laugh at later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why I said it might feel stupid. It might feel like it doesn't really help. Mm-hmm. Do it anyways. Okay, so it's really that one is just stop complaining.
Shut up.
Yeah, just roll with it. Stop the complaining. Do whatever you need to do to just kind of try to begin to change your mindset. So the other thing is, when you have a negative thought, so it's not necessarily a complaint, but when you have a negative thought about something, create a positive one instead. And this is more like the traffic maybe situation because you're not necessarily complaining about it to somebody or whatever. But, I was thinking of the example like the bank line is way too long. Mm-hmm. Okay. So instead, what might come out is, I'm really thankful that I have the ability to keep my money safe in this place. I mean, it's stupid. Mm-hmm. I mean, even as I say it sounds dumb, but it's true. Mm-hmm. And you begin to look at things differently.
Sure.
And I'm telling you, I did this and it began to change how I feel and how I'm acting around people and how it just started to do it. And so it's sort of just, feel it or think it and do it anyways. Like even if you don't believe in it, just act it out and let it happen. So, and it doesn't happen right away. This is not like something where it's like, oh, you do 2 thoughts and boom, you're feeling better. Right. This is something where you have to consciously say to yourself, listen, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I want to get out of this. Okay, here's a roadmap where I can actually do that. So that's the 4th thing. So the 5th thing is if you're eating dinner with your family, and we implemented this, if you're eating dinner with your family or somebody else, go around the table, which we've done some other things around the table, but go around the table and have each person say 2 things that happened today that were positive. and then one thing you're grateful for.
Right.
So what we have done in the past, which was, something good that happened and something bad that happened, and sort of what did you learn from the bad, you can still do that, but I prefer in this situation, especially if you're trying to get to the positives and do that and you're not feeling very good, or even if your children are having this issue, is to just focus on the positive stuff.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the negative of what happened bad today. So you go around the room, or each person at the table, you're talking about, two things that happened. My kids now, we do this on occasion and trying to do it more regularly, and they seem to enjoy it. I enjoy it, and it helps me as well. And
Sure.
you start to begin to focus on what is positive. More positive things will happen in your life. So that's the thing. And so the last item is, before you go to sleep, in your journal, write 3 things that were positive, and then also something that you're grateful for.
Okay.
So, and you can do more than one thing that you're grateful for, but you also want to make sure in the journal, unlike maybe when you're eating dinner and it's just something brief or so, in your journal, you want to include how it made you feel. Because you're making the connection of that feeling and the positive feeling around it to the item that happened that was positive.
Right.
So, if you're not somebody who, you don't want to do a journal, I think I had mentioned before, I found an app that does it.
Okay.
There was one called Bliss, and literally it reminds you and says, okay, what 3 things are you grateful for today?
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there and I enter them, and it's like, an alarm,
Yeah.
and it's easy. It's
Yeah.
really, really easy.
There's an app that does you can record 1 second of the day.
Oh,
but
cool.
For a variety of days, and then it plays it back for you, for the end of the
Yeah.
year. Someone that did that, where they took basically the whole year. They took 1 second a day, or like 1 second, 2 seconds. I can't remember what it was.
Like something happy or
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they just had all these memories of the entire year, like variety of senses, people they
Yeah,
were
it's
with
cool.
at the time. Yeah, so it was kind of a real positive
Yeah,
experience.
so I have then in this app like a log of all the things that are making me happy during that day. And so
Yeah.
you'd want to say, let's say you're a student, or let's say you something at work, and you say, you know what, I finished a project and it really made me feel productive at work. Or I had a conversation with a potential client and it made me feel like I was a good employee.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things. You can find something positive as a result of it. So, but you got to find a couple of them. You have to also identify how it made you feel.
Yeah.
And so that's really, the core thing. And this app reminds you of that. And that's
Sure.
why I'm, recommending this, but you can do it in your journal if you just want to handwrite it.
Called Bliss.
This one's called Bliss. There's a couple,
I'm
there's a
sure.
bunch of them.
Yeah.
So, kind of in closing it up, if you feel like your life isn't going that well, and you just, it's really hard to see that light, just go through the motions of doing this. And, that's why I said, from experience, I can tell you that's the reason why I'm really wanted to do this podcast, is because I felt the changes myself,
Sure.
and granted, I'm on the podcast all the time. I am happy, and people around me know that I'm okay. But I get in these states where I'm not feeling as good internally.
Sure. Yeah.
It just is. And then outwardly, it might kind of seem everything's okay, but you know what? Internally, I'm just not feeling that great. I might feel a lot of stress. I might feel a lot of pressure, all kinds of stuff that can happen. So, and that's part of this podcast is it's just being real. I hate saying that.
Keep it real.
Yeah. 100, as the children say out
I
there.
know. There's some things I'm just like, I do that. Oh, geez.
Yeah, no, it's hard, but it's not about pretending. And as a dad and a husband and everything else, it's like this stuff happens. It really does. This is real life. And sort of one of the things people say is just fake it till you make it.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that portion of it.
Yeah. And I was reading some things. Literally, your brain chemistry changes. Like the chemistry within your brain will change. Mm-hmm. For me, it was probably about a week or so, and I started feeling better. They say 2 to 3, probably more like 3 weeks, but literally, I think I was so adamant about feeling better, I was really just that. My mental shift started to happen pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so what happens is now I find when I'm feeling that way, I just kind of default back to okay, what was positive right now?
Right.
Even the other day in the morning, I was having a really frustrating morning with multiple things happening over and over and over. And I just took a second, I stopped, and I just okay, what are some really good things right now in my life? Because I could feel it coming on.
Yeah.
You feel it coming on. And so using that technique, it's like literally these positive thoughts can sort of just like fight it. Like they combat it. It's just, and they overpower it.
Yeah.
So, if you're going to feel those, if you want to feel positive, you're just going to have to make the effort to do it.
Sure.
So you just got to stick with it. Know that there's a better way out and that you can feel better than you do today.
It's almost like working out. You got to constantly do it, and do it every day. You don't have to, a little bit at a time, but you get consistently.
Right.
Do it.
One workout's not going to make you
right.
in good
I'm going to
shape.
be super buff after one workout.
3 days like a Beavis and Butthead. 3 more days of this and we'll be totally ripped. Right. How do we know that?
Same generation.
Oh, that's bad. Glad there's no women listening. So yeah, I think it's certainly possible. Like I said, if you're having a severe bout, then go see a doctor.
You may
go
want to see a professional.
Yeah. But we consider ourselves professionals at almost everything. That's the best part of the show.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We think we know everything, and therefore spew it onto you.
No, but that's why I said I didn't want to talk about something that wasn't from experience.
Right.
And so I wanted to at least share that this is something that you can combat and that you can deal with. You just got to work with it and go on.
For sure. Yeah.
So with that, any other items?
No, podcast at dudesadads.com if you want to email us.
Subscriptions. You can
yeah.
subscribe to
YouTube, iTunes,
Stitcher.
All of them we would accept. One of them we would accept actually as well.
Awesome.
And then please leave a review if it's on Stitcher or iTunes. It really helps out with the ratings of the show. And then if you want to get a hold of us on Twitter, it's Dudes to Dads, and Facebook is dudesadads.com.
Yep.
So feel free to leave feedback if you have any ideas for the show. We are approaching the end of the year in 2016. So if you have any things you want to talk about for the new year, that would be really great to hear some feedback from you guys.
Cool. All right. With that, Alan, thank you.
Thank you.
We will see you next week.
See you next week.